welcome to the Build and Grow with Real Estate show. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Judah Hoover. I am a real estate investor and a realtor. This guy right over here in shadow, all of a sudden, there we go.
All right, exactly.
My good buddy and co-host, Mr. Josh Weidman. Josh is a real estate investor and a hard money lender. You can find all our information up here at the top. We would love to do business with you. Here's the deal. This show is about teaching people how to make money in real estate by servicing the real estate industry in some way, shape, or form, and also profit from the real estate industry and build wealth, life-changing wealth, generational wealth, family tree affecting wealth. That's what real estate can do for you.
Holy cow! You're really bumping this up here. Like, if you, the bottom line is we talk about real estate, right?
Right. I mean, that's what real estate does for you.
Our business is real estate. If you have a business that's real estate related, whether you're an investor, a lender, an agent, a potential homeowner, hey, we're here to talk about real estate.
I'm sorry if I was overhyping real estate there a little bit, Josh. And if you're not, maybe you're not as bullish on real estate as I am, and some of our dear listeners. It should come as no surprise to anybody that Josh is a Debbie Downer here. That is how he goes.
That's exactly right. Look, I just like to offset the eternal optimism with, some reality checks from time to time. It doesn't hurt.
Nice. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, on Monday, we come to you guys with really great, awesome content. On Tuesdays, we come to you with great, awesome content and a guest. And on Fridays, that's what we do on Thursdays. On Fridays, we do a news roundup. So there is a lot of stuff that's out there. Well, listen, we don't talk about whatever Cardi B did at the Grammys, and we don't talk about, what happened during, so-and-so's political junket visit to wherever. There's a lot of stuff that we don't cover and we don't talk about. We talk about the economy as it relates to real estate, lending and mortgages as it relates to real estate, the real estate market, what you need to know for your own information, but also so that when you're sitting there talking to motivated sellers or potential listing leads or potential borrowers, you've got the information to sound like you actually know what the heck you're talking about. That's what our goal is.
Judy, it's really funny. When we first started this, I think
I like to think I'm really funny. Some people disagree, but I like to think I'm really funny.
Well, so I I don't know if you remember why we started doing this. We started doing the End of the World Friday edition.
Right.
Because the news that was coming out was so terrifying and ridiculous. And, I think that we've kind of kept an underlying theme here, and that is this. We live in a quickly changing world. And as it were, I think that even the most
fickle world, would you say?
Well, even one of
our listeners here, Jonna, said she needs to buy a thesaurus. Look up the word.
No, she said you bought one.
Oh, Judah
bought one. Yeah, no. So what I was saying, Judah, is like we have. I think even the most optimistic person in the market would agree that this type of continued upward cycle wouldn't go on forever.
No, it can't go on forever.
Well,
no.
Yeah,
there will be market corrections. Absolutely.
And with that in mind, I think that right now we're in a really unpredictable environment, and it's just important for us to check in and take a look. And I think the news stories that we choose and that we try to present every Friday have some relevance to real estate and what's happening today and how it could impact tomorrow. Fair enough?
100%.
Awesome. And Judah, using a word wealth word, tethered into reality. Nice comment.
Jonna. Yeah.
Did I say Judah? Jonna. I'm sorry. Man, okay. This the Hoover family is deep in here on the show.
Yeah.
Right. So let's jump into the news, man. Let's get going. Right? Shoot. I hit the wrong button. Give me a second here.
Up here, Josh. Should I add it to the stream? Is that what you needed? I can do that for you.
There we go. All right, good. All right.
You've got to actually make the slides go, though. I can't do that.
There we go. Perfect. All right. The first thing that I want to talk about today is the American Rescue Plan. This
Right.
$1.9 trillion in what stimulus package that people are getting their checks, and you see it on Facebook. You see everything that's been going on for the last couple of weeks to get this bill passed. Right now, that means $50 billion in rental assistance. And
Right.
frankly, with all the moratoriums and everything, we were talking to Anthony Moore yesterday about some of the problems that he's had with his tenant, and going through the eviction process. And I think right now there are a lot of people out there that are landlords that are looking around and saying, you know what, I could use a bailout.
Well, yeah, because I have a client right now that I just brought her on, and she was saying to me, she says, "Hey, Judah, I got a snow removal bill, I got a trash bill, I got a water bill, I got a mortgage payment to make. Everyone is telling me that tenants don't have to make payments. What do I do to?" And she was like dead serious, straight up asking me like, what do I got to do to tell these sewer people that they ain't getting a check right now? And I was like, damn, that ain't how it goes.
So how about this? I was reading an article earlier this week about this landlord in New York City in Brooklyn, who she was living in her car. She was living in her car because her plan was she had worked with this tenant for several months, and right before the moratorium extension, she had been sending out information about how to get assistance in moving.
Right.
And so the tenant had agreed to move. She was going to forgive all the back rent, and she was going to move into the apartment. Tenant never moved out.
Oy.
And so now she's trying to get the woman evicted so she can move in and have a place to live. It was a duplex, and this is like a $700,000 or $800,000 property that it's a woman's only residence,
right.
And so she's just fighting to get back in there. I think that's an extreme example, but I think that there are a lot of people that can feel the squeeze in their pocketbooks right now, and these moratoriums haven't helped. So this is, I guess, a push to make everybody happy for a little bit until we can kind of make heads or tails of and put this pandemic stuff behind us.
Yep.
Right. All right. So who qualifies? Let's start with that. If you're a landlord or maybe a tenant that's behind on the rent, this is a start. At least one member of the household has to qualify for unemployment benefits or have lost income during the coronavirus, or has incurred significant expenses due to the pandemic. Okay. And you can show this by having a late rental payment on the lease, a notice from the landlord, or even a shut off notice from a utility.
Yep.
This is the second thing that I thought was pretty crazy. You have to prove you're at risk to being homeless. I mean, that's a pretty big, seems like a pretty big pill, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then your 2020 income has to be less than 80% of your area's median income. And then last but not least,
that's a pretty common means test.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say that's a pretty common means test. There's a lot of programs out there that, sometimes they talk about, well, are we going to means test this or are we not going to means test it? And 80% of median income, your income can't be 80% greater than what the median income is.
Right. Well, we talked about this a little bit during the start of the start of the pandemic and the shutdowns and some of the proposals that had been made with Congress on some bailout bills in the past. And it's kind of this other side of the coin to this whole conversation. There's a lot of landlords that qualify for this that are just saying, yeah, I'm not taking the money.
Right.
And so, the flip side of the argument here is not that the landlords don't want the money, but that often there's a lot of strings attached, because what happens with these federal funds and the way this is distributed, it's pushed to the states, and then the states and the local governments, the money kind of filters then down through the states and local governments out to the landlords and these bailout funds. The problem is that each of these different organizations adds some qualifications.
Well, yeah, they've got their overlays, and they stack on top of, and they stack on top of, and that definitely causes a fair number of problems. But this is great. This is great content, and this is great info, Josh. We got to keep on digging into this because I think that one of the reasons we at Slate House Group were able to have such a high rent collection rate compared to everybody else out there was because we helped people with what they can do to actually get the money to actually pay the rent. And I think that if people follow up on these things and help people, they can really they can really do some good here.
Well, this kind of comes into, I think, our next news point here. Depending on where these areas are located, I mean, Central Pennsylvania is an area where we have small government is valued, and so the overlays are less. And maybe if you're in more of an urban environment, or you're in Harrisburg, you're in Lancaster, or you're in York City, there may be some additional stipulations. But like there are some pretty outrageous steps that have been going on across the country, or proposals. Some of them have been like, look, we're going to cap the payouts at 80% of the amount owed, or there's going to be, you have to agree not to increase your rent for 2 years if you accept the money, stuff like that. That, isn't necessarily the case in some secondary markets or tertiary markets like we see here in Central PA. And I think that's led to, our next news item here. And that is like,
I recognize that place.
What? Yeah, exactly.
For those of you that don't know, that is downtown Lancaster.
Right.
Lancaster, America's oldest inland market, oldest continuously running market, or something like that. Everyone talks about how old Reading Terminal Market is down in Philadelphia. Central Market predates it by, I think, 20 or 30 or 50 years, something like that.
Quit
bragging. Funny little fact, I always tell people how long that, my family has lived in Lancaster County. My family has lived in Lancaster County for about 40 years longer than Lancaster, than Central Market's been open.
Your family laid the bricks in the ground when they were building the market.
We basically invented Lancaster County, so you're welcome, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You're welcome.
Fair enough. But here's I guess the point of this is that right now secondary and tertiary markets are thriving, and it's because of the forced shutdowns. So we talked the other day about how much I love college wrestling, right? Yep. And right now is the NCAA tournament. And what you have seen with a lot of college athletics is this divergence between the elite teams that have athletes that go to school to play the sport and they also get an education, and the schools that it's all the sports team's almost a club, right? The divergence has been that in the past, these club teams, they would or in the past you still had to go to class, right? Now you don't even have to go to class, and so you have these elite teams being even more and more uber successful. And I think that,
which was kind of the draw of college athletics to begin with, right? It was a bunch of club teams. There were a bunch of amateurs. It wasn't professional basketball. And so, I mean, geez, to the degree that we're talking about sports here on a real estate show, they're kind of ruining what made high school, or what made college basketball or college sports.
Excuse me. Well, and I think that sports, kids sports in general, have become way more serious than they have been in the past. And man, this is a rabbit hole. But like you see more and more kids at the high school level doing one sport full time instead of enjoying being involved in a lot of different things. Excuse me. Wow.
Keep going, my friend. Keep going.
All right. So this is what was really interesting to see. So start looking at the numbers on these things. Number one, median home prices in secondary markets on average.
Yeah, they're just exploding. And I mean, not only have we seen them going up, but we're going to continue to see them going up. While Josh goes ahead and works out his sniffles there, I can pick up the ball here and run with it, because Josh and I, we're like an elite team. So what you're also seeing is this is also being driven by some really big players. And not like really, really, really big players, but a number of big players moving into buy in these secondary markets. So kind of the outskirts of primary markets. So you take the top 10 primary markets of the US, you move out 45 minutes and you find the population hubs, and that's usually where your secondary markets are. Guess what? Lancaster County is ideally situated because we are a secondary market to Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York, and so it's why so much is happening here. I was in some meetings recently with some people that were, what they're looking at doing is they're going to put together a fund and buy a $17 million fund that they are then going to apply leverage to. So it's not just going to be an all cash fund, and they're going to go out there and buy in these markets. So
are they doing 17 million? 17 million is the raise, or that's the
17 million is the raise.
So it's right. That's $100 million, roughly $100 million fund.
Right. Probably a little less than that, but yeah, probably 50 to 75 is probably, if I had to guess, where it'll probably be. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, think about it. They're going to go out there and buy. That is, 750 to 1,000 units right there that they're looking at, that they're looking at buying. And it doesn't take now. And in the real estate world, in the real estate fund world, that's small potatoes. That's nothing. That's, that's a rounding error when it comes to a lot of hedge funds that are out there. So a lot of people are seeing and noticing the power of single family homes located in nice neighborhoods, 2, 3, 5, 10 unit apartment buildings. When you get over 15, you're really looking at some bigger players. And when you're, over 4, you're bigger than what, a lot of mom and pops can buy. And so that's where a lot of these people are looking to move in and buy.
But more than that, a lot of the supporting infrastructure type buildings are what really is thriving. I mean, data center leasing.
Yes.
Rates, they're 110% in secondary and tertiary markets because of the increasing demand than they are in primary markets.
Right.
Right. Like, that's just insane. Warehouse and distribution centers are up, 13.7% nationwide since 2019. It's just insane, the growth. And this is all in these secondary and tertiary markets.
Yeah. Look at, so, I mean, and all you need to know to understand those 2 points that we just talked about, data center there, I got to tell you, Josh, at Slate House Group, we're cleaning up in the property management business and putting other companies out of business and absorbing market share and going like gangbusters for one reason and one reason only. We're just applying technology to an industry that it hasn't been applied to yet. Everyone thinks, oh, geez, how can data continue growing? We're already online all the time. We're already on our phones all the time. We're already whatever. But business whenever you touch a piece of paper in business, that can be digitized. And just take that times 10. There's so many more systems that can be digitized. There's so many things that can and will be digitized and systematized moving forward. And then when it comes to warehouse and distribution, we just talked to Anthony the other day, who is living that world. Trucking is going huge right now. So we're only seeing more and more of that space continue to explode. And that, like you said, Josh, is a big part of what's supporting these secondary and tertiary markets, because that's where the people can actually be.
That's right. All right. So one bad note this week, and not so much bad note, but
don't call it a bad note. Interest rates have only crossed over 3%. I'm going to punch the first person who complains about interest rates being 5%.
Hold on a second, though. Here's okay. Complain all you want, but increasing interest rates could very well be a big problem. I said to you right before jumping on the show, and I didn't really have a chance to dig into this issue. Like, why would somebody increase interest rates right now? The economy is still on a kind of rocky.
Well, it's not that somebody increases interest rates. It's that the market is not buying as many bonds because
no way. The interest rates are all coming from the Fed. It is a dictatorship. It has very, very little to do.
Sure, they control the Fed funds rate, but mortgage rates are backed on Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac issued bonds, and the Treasury and the 10-year, not the 10-year T-bill, but the 10-year T-bill is what like a lot of credit cards and other things like that are based on. So interest rates are based on the bond market, and the bond market does not like inflation. So what did the Fed say this last week? The Fed said yesterday or the day before, I forget. Geez, this week has just flown by. They said that the economy this year is going to grow at 6.5%. Like, that's crazy. I mean, during Obama, during Bush, during even during Trump, like, you know, Obama said, like, we're never going to see growth of above like 2.5% to 3% again.
Right.
Like, the goal is to have growth at 2.5% to 3% and inflation at like 2%. You know, so growth, like, is crazy at 3%. We're going to see 6.5% growth this year, the Fed says, and the Fed is historically conservative. The Fed wouldn't, if anything, they want to miss this number low, not miss this number high. So there's a concern that inflation could be overheated.
But where's the baseline? Is the baseline the end of 2020, like the worst economic slowdown? Sure,
absolutely, yes. I mean, you know, it is. You can always say that the books are cooked just a little bit. You know, and you also, if you liked our former president, you could say that this is technically his growth, because what has Biden done to actually cause this growth? I mean, I get all of that. I'm just saying that if you're a bond trader, you're now no longer worried about COVID and the economy crashing. You're now worried about it being too heated and it being overinflated. But as I've said for months to anybody who would want to listen, we are way far away from hyperinflation. Treasury Secretary, or is it the Fed president? I forget. Said just this week that, like, the time, it's been decades and decades and decades since we've had a time when there was an inflation spike that we could not control pretty quickly.
Well, you know, I want to jump on that point though. I wonder if the elimination of the $15 minimum wage wasn't a response to that, to get inflation under control. Because if all of a sudden we go from a $7.25 or whatever, a $7.15 an hour to a $15 an hour minimum wage, everything's going to get more expensive.
Right. It's called wage-based inflation. And it's why I think that they're pushing, because here's the thing. If you're worried about the debt, and if you're a proponent of government spending,
right,
you need to you're going to get opposition if there's a huge debt that we already have. So I want the government to spend money on constituents so that they vote for me, right? That's what politicians do. I want to spend money on constituents so that they vote for me. But I'm going to face opposition because I have this debt. I'm worried about my party's long-term future, and how my party is long-term successful is by doling out money. In order to fight the pushback that I'm going to get, we need to do something with this debt. How do we get rid of this debt? Well, we either raise taxes and pay it down. That doesn't sound very political. So what we're going to do is we're going to inflate our way out of this debt.
Right.
So what they're trying to do is inflate our way out of this debt. And I think that inflation has been problematically low for about 15 years. Okay. So it's not just that inflation has been low, it's been problematically low for a long time. And when you're dealing with a ship that's as big as the U.S., there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be finely tuned. And one of the things that makes a whole lot of things work really nice is a 2% annualized inflation. And we have not seen it in a very, very long time. And so the Fed is literally printing money and depositing it into your checking account so that we can spark some inflation.
Right.
And the bond market sees that and they're like, maybe not. But also, you talked about it just was it Monday or was it last Friday, where you were like, a year and a half ago, interest rates were 4%, and everyone was like, this is crazy low. And then 6 months ago, they were 2.5, and now they've come back, but they're nowhere close to even what we were calling crazy low.
Well, yeah, but I get that. It's not a complaint about the higher interest rates. 3.34%, great interest rate. It's still good.
Right.
The issue that I have here is more so that this is the fastest increase in interest rates that has ever been recorded in the history of the records. It's a 0.75% interest increase in 6 weeks. The reason that it becomes an issue is if this trend continues, and let's not say it's 0.75%, but even 3 basis points or
I get it. 30 basis points, but yeah, I get it.
It becomes a real issue. However, this goes like our next news story is essentially just a follow up on the same thing that we've been saying. Even though interest rates are going up, we're still in an environment where, prices are so stinking stable. And I don't see what that, what's going to be that stimulus or what's going to be that spark that
what's going to be Mrs. What's her face's cow that starts the fire that burns it all down is what you're saying.
Right. I'm not even saying
our listeners. Whose cow was it that started the Chicago fire? She kicked over the lantern.
I don't know. Who knows?
That's not a reference you're getting. Okay.
I don't know the reference. I'm sorry. Unfortunately,
it's a famous story of you're familiar with the Great Chicago Fire, yes?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the Great Chicago Fire was started by Mrs. O'Leary's cow or something like that. I forget what her name was. So you're saying we don't know what the Mrs. O'Leary's cow is that's going to burn down the. I completely agree.
I'm not saying, Judah, at this point, I'm not saying burn anything down. What I'm saying though is like there are the cycles of continual upswing. It comes to an end at some point. I know, Jonna, good job, O'Leary, wonderful. But here's the deal. Watch. You've got what are the things that impact this? Stable lending environment. We have that, right? And although I've been reading some interesting articles about these non-conforming loans that we talked about earlier in the week that are looking a heck of a lot like subprime loans. But right now we've got a pretty stable lending.
I mean, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. A subprime loan by any other name performs the exact same.
Well, right. I mean, like get the stopwatch ready and, all right. Aside from that.
That was a Shakespeare reference for you, Josh. I know you're weak on your references here.
Dude, I know Shakespeare. Don't give me that. I just don't know O'Leary the cow. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. All right. Well, interest rates are still low. They're insanely low. A year ago, they were 4.5%, right? Now, in addition to that, low inventory, and you've got a stacking effect going on in the construction industry with lumber prices continuing to go up. I mean, they're 300% or 400% of what they were a year ago.
Right.
And so builders have approved permits. They have sold lots and sold contracts to build houses, but they're not building because they can't afford to right now. And so you've got high demand, low interest rates, no new inventory or stalled new inventory. All that, like, what's the impetus? Unless we have a world war or something like that, like there's no catalyst that I see right around the corner that's going to be really bad for housing.
Right. Yeah. No. And what concerns me and what's going to be interesting is the supply chains, how messed up all of our supply chains are right now, and they've just all also messed each other up, and it's just this whole big Gordian knot that is almost that's almost impossible to untie. There's a funny story, and I'll have to. Well, I think it's an interesting story. I forget who won the contract to build what bomber it was during World War II. Yeah. But they were like, and they said, listen, we can do this. I know that we can make thousands of bombers a day. And the generals were like, thousands of bombers a day? Yeah, go ahead and do that. And so they award them this contract. The details are a little fuzzy here for me. And they like check back in with them like 4 months later, and they're like, where are all our bombers? And they're like, okay, we have like 3 of them, but like we're really close to getting our factories all like lined up and everything like that. And so they check back like 4 months later. They're like, guys, what the heck's going on? You've only delivered like 10 of these. And they're like, yeah, just trust us. Once the factory gets working and the assembly lines all get, done, we're really going to be able to do this. And then they got to the point where they were like producing 5,000 bombers a day or something like that. You know what I mean? It went from like took forever. All of a sudden it's great. I don't think people understand how much our whole global supply chain is like that it is going to take forever to get this all straightened out and humming again.
Have you ever read the book 0 to 1? It's all about exponential growth and these founders and all of the work that went into setting the foundation work, and technologies that you thought appeared overnight. For 30 years, it took, day in and day out for 30 years grinding just to get the basics.
This is what Anthony Moore and us were talking about yesterday. Right. How he's got 7 companies now that he's hiring people for, in each of them. But for the last 3 years that I've known Anthony, it was him, and he's doing all this because he went from 0 to 1. Now he's going to go from 1 to 18 really quick. But all the work is in getting the car moving. All the work is in getting it started. Josh, this is why I like talking to you, buddy, because 0 to 1, never heard of this book. I pride myself on, I'm always reading 5 books at one time, and that is a book that I'm not familiar with.
Great book, really good book.
You've turned me on to a number of good books, Josh, just by doing this show with you, and I appreciate that.
Dude, you know what we should do?
We've already done it. I can't believe you forgot.
Well, no. We ought to have once a month do a show on one book.
I love it.
One book, that would be cool.
We could do a book club.
Yeah, exactly. Book club day. And anybody that wants to be involved, we'll stream it.
Yes, I love it. I love that idea.
Awesome. All right. Hey, that's it for today. It's Friday. Don't forget to set your clocks for, I think it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock tonight. The NCAA semifinals are on ESPN. You don't want to miss it. If you've got a deal,
I thought you were going to say set your clocks back. I was like, Josh, you're a week late, buddy. That was last weekend.
If you need a loan, give me a call. You're looking for management, you need to list or sell your property, give Judah a call. And until then, you guys go out, have a great day, make some money. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.
Hey, everybody.